Guys, welcome back. This would be part 5 of my saga. Welcome back and good job on making it this far if you watched the rest of them. If you haven't, this is part 5. So if something doesn't make sense and you care and you want to know, you may want to go watch the other parts. I'm trying to keep them about 30 minutes long a piece because my story is really, really long. It's pretty crazy. And I just want to make sure that, just so you know, the reason why I'm not leaving out anything is because I really want people who need to hear this stuff, like who maybe been through something very similar. I just really want them to know that they're not alone, because it just really, really sucks, some of this stuff, and when you feel like no one's going to understand, so that's why I'm trying to be as thorough as I can. I want to help people, ultimately. So anyway, let's get started on part 5. So when I left off, my dad had found out about my making out and, super making out with this boy when I was 14. I think it was maybe 15 at this point. Because I was baptized, I had to go to the elders. This boy was not baptized, so nothing happened to him, but I had to go to the elders. And these men, who were really old and gross and weird, asked me, let's see, how many times did I touch it? Did he touch me? Did I orgasm? Did he orgasm? Just a bunch of really, really inappropriate questions that traumatized me for life. It was horrifying. I felt so naked and alone. In there by myself with these guys asking me these questions. And they had said, your dad can come with you. And my dad had offered to go. I'm like, you know what? I don't want to do this, period. You really think I want my dad in there? No. So, yeah, the questions that they asked me were horrifying. And, God, I just really wish that the police would get involved in something like that, because what they were doing was against the law. I'm sorry, but that is exploitation of a minor. It really is. They don't need to know any of those things. It's really, really gross. It's enough for me to come to them and say, this is what I did. And I need counsel. I need counsel from the Bible or spiritual help. Like, these questions about orgasm with 14, 15-year-old little girl is horrible. And I have never spoken to the 3 of them ever again, and I never will. I spit on them. So this is water, by the way, just so you know. The story is starting to get difficult, and I don't drink, but this is where I wish I did. So anyway, so I was privately reproved, which is nice, right? I thought I was going to get fellowshipped. And, at this time, I of course, I believed in Jehovah, and I felt horrible about what I had done with that boy. I felt horrible. I mean, I was excited because I was in love, but I felt awful. And I knew that what I had done was against the rules. I knew it. But I couldn't tell my dad because my dad is crazy. And I didn't really have my mom. I didn't really want to tell her. And I don't trust my stepmom. So I prayed about it to Jehovah all the time. And I begged him to forgive me. And, it was that experience where I kind of felt like my relationship with God was a very personal thing. Like the witnesses say, have a relationship with God, but it's not really a relationship with God if everything that you do and everything wrong that you do, you have to go to this elder body for. I was sorry. Oh, I was sorry about what I had done. I was sorry about breaking God's laws and his rules, even though I hadn't even had sex. You guys, I wish I could explain to you just how silly and ridiculous this whole thing that I was so upset about was. It was so incredibly normal and like tame for for what kids our age other kids our age were doing. We were alone in a house for hours making out. Like we, another kid would have definitely had sex. We didn't have sex. We didn't even take our clothes off. Okay, we were like, it was tame, and I felt horrible. But I also kind of felt like I had this super awesome relationship with this God that I don't believe in this anymore. But at the time, I was like, this God is love, right? And he loves me. And he knows exactly what I feel in my heart. And he knows everything that's going on in my head. So he understands why I did that with this boy. And he understands how I feel right now. And he loves me. So he forgives me, right? I'm sorry. I'm not lying. And that's kind of how I felt. So when my dad read my diary and, oh my God, that was the end of the world. By the way, the day he read my diary and found out about that, he lied about reading my diary. He told me that he had someone spying on me, which is not true, because he wasn't mad about it for like months and months until he read about it in my diary. But all of a sudden, the spy network finally came together for him. Oh, I was a whore and I was a slut, and I was called the most disgusting, slutty names. It was so bad that I started going to my counselor, my school counselor, junior high, and I would go to him purposely at the end of the school day so that I could maybe miss the school bus and maybe not have to go home for a few more hours. It was really, really bad. And just asking, like, I would go in there and sit with my school counselor and ask him if I'm a slut or if I'm a whore. Like, ask him all these, is this true? I don't think I am. I'm a virgin. I haven't had, my school counselor was just sitting there like, what the hell is going on in her house? But, I was really, really upset by the names that my dad was calling me. So anyway, sorry, I digress again. So, yeah, I got privately reproved. So anyway, I at this time was just over living with my dad, my stepmom. I wanted to go live with my mom now. So I went and started having my visitation with her. Another big thing of this was like all her family lived in Missouri next to this boy that I was infatuated with. So, she would make it easier for me to see him and talk to him on the phone and everything. That was definitely a part of it, which I have to admit, I was obsessed with this guy. Anyway, but more than anything, I needed her. And my dad was a crazy asshole. I had to get away from him. So I went to her house. I started staying there for longer and longer periods of time. And then one day I decided I wasn't ever going back. And there was custody battle number 2. This time my mom won. Because I was like 15, I was going to leave if I didn't want to. So my mom was kind of like she was just very, very naive. And I was extremely naive. And I kind of thought, because my dad was like, where you're going? You're going to be worldly. Because your mom is worldly. And you're going to fall right out of the truth. And I was like, no, I'm not. I love the truth. I love being a Jehovah's Witness. I love Jehovah, right? So I started, when I got over there to her place, I was like, we have to go to meetings. And my mom, bless her heart, she did take me to a meeting. And I thought for sure everyone was going to be really, really nice to us. They really, really did. Especially since a lot of the people there knew us, knew my mom from the way back, and they knew me. And instead of being nice to us, they were like kind of skeptical, or they were standoffish and were just kind of staring at us and like, whispering about my mom. And no one came to talk to us. Like, we had to go to them. It was awful. Their witnesses are, they're so nasty. They're so nasty. nasty. All this, oh, we love each other so much. That's bullshit. That's not what love is. And they were so gossipy and I don't know, just sarcastic with us. Like, I don't know, I'm having a hard time finding my words here, but my stepmom's best friend went to that congregation, and usually she was always like really happy and, smiley with me, but I'm now an enemy because I made my dad and my stepmom have to fight over custody of me again, which they didn't have to do. All they had to do was give custody to my mom. They didn't have to fight. They didn't want to pay child support, and they wanted to continue getting child support checks from my mom. That's what this was all about. They didn't want me there. I was driving them crazy. They already had 2 other teenagers, so they were more than happy to lose one. And they did not give a shit if I was going to the Kingdom Hall or not. They just didn't want to pay child support. That's what this was all about. But anyway, she was, mad at me. I was the enemy because I had made them do all that stuff, have to get a lawyer. I totally made them do that. So anyway, we left there, and I was extremely upset because I'd never seen witnesses act that way before, and I didn't expect it. I expected them to love bomb us, right? Like, my mom hasn't been in a meeting in years. I'm here, like, I'm getting my mom to take the truth seriously. I obviously take the truth seriously. And they were nasty to us. It was like Mean Girls. You can't sit with us. I mean, it was just really, really horrible. And that was the last time I ever asked my mom to take me to the meeting. My poor mom. She didn't, I told you so or anything, though. Anyway, one of the really nice things about living with my mom was that it was the end of 9th grade. And 9th grade in junior high is that's the last grade of junior high. And I had never been to a school dance. And I always wanted to go. I did okay popularity-wise in school. I wasn't like super popular, but I was far from being, the least popular. I had a lot of friends. I really liked my friends. In fact, the only thing that kept me going to school sometimes was my girlfriends. They were great. And so I always wanted to go to a dance, not to dance with boys, but to hang out with my girlfriends, and so we had our 9th grade dance, and my mom bought me a big, huge, pretty prom dress, and she got me a corsage, and, she made it a really, really special day. And so I'm really happy that I lived with her when that dance happened, because I had more fun in that dance than I'd ever had in my entire life. It was so much fun. So I got to do something kind of normal. But I decided that after that I was going to go ahead and be homeschooled. Because honestly, the only reason I wanted to be homeschooled was because I didn't want to get up at 5 in the morning anymore. And it's funny, I wasn't going to the Kingdom Hall, so that's one of the things it's hard for witness kids, I think, a lot of the time. Maybe you can identify with this. Especially for us, when we were like going to a Kingdom Hall, it was 30 minutes away, and then my dad and my stepmom would always stay until the doors closed, talking, fellowshipping. So sometimes, we had to get up for school at 5 or 6. We wouldn't even get home until like 11 o'clock at night. So we didn't get our homework done because we had to study for the meeting. So I was flunking everything because I never did my homework ever. It's amazing I never had a repeated grade. I don't even know how I managed that. But like we were always exhausted. My stepbrother especially, he was so tired all the time. So anyway, but I at this point I just didn't want to get up and go anymore. My mom, who always was optimistic about me and only assumed that I was doing and thinking wholesome and good thoughts all the time, was like, okay, and she put me on American school, right, which I proceeded to do none of. So now I'm home all the time. And I was about 16 at this point. And I don't want to get too far into this, but I got myself into a group of kids, or not kids, like 20 somethings in my we lived at the apartment complex that my mom was the assistant manager at, and there were just a lot of bad people living in there. It was kind of hood, and I got deeply into drugs and partying because I was home alone all the time. My mom worked really, really hard. She worked sometimes 12 hours, and then she was too tired to do anything at the end of the day. So I was out smoking, drinking, doing ecstasy and smoking pot and going to raves and sneaking out to go to raves and party. And yeah, now I was getting crazy. So at this point in my life, once I discovered, here's what happened was I got a friend. My mom introduced me to this girl that worked at the apartments with her. It was like the receptionist there. She was 19 and I was 16, and I didn't have any friends there. And this girl had just moved out here and she didn't have any friends. So my mom was like, hey, you guys should hang out. Well, this girl was a meth head, and my mom, she doesn't know anything about drugs. She doesn't understand what a meth head is. She doesn't know what she's looking at, right? Because she is a brainwashed Jehovah's Witness that has, basically lived. It's got to be hard. So, anyway, I got to be friends with this girl, and she got me doing drugs and smoking. And once I met her, I kind of plugged into all of these other people, and so there's this, to kind of like explain this, there's this episode of South Park where they meet the homeschool kids in the area, and the little girl who has never been allowed to like be out of her house, she when she's in public school, she's like sleeping with all these guys and dressing like all slutty and being crazy, and the thing is like, it's that stereotype of the girl that was completely cut off from society, right? And now she has freedom and she's just right. That was me. So once nobody was watching me, I lost my freaking mind. And I'm 16, which is like when you're literally the dumbest. So I did stupid things. I got myself into a lot of trouble. I am lucky to be alive. And I didn't even really get myself into trouble. I never got caught doing anything wrong. I don't know how, but I was just crazy. I lost it. And every night I would cry because I knew that I was upsetting Jehovah. So I was, but I couldn't stop myself. It was really, really a hard place to be. And my mom had spent all this money on like my room and making me happy. She bought me all these really nice things, and she gave me all this freedom because she never dreamed that I would do any of this stuff. And I was lying to her and I was stealing from her, and I feel awful about that, about doing all this stuff to my mom. And I was convinced that there were demons in my room. Every night I thought that there were demons all around me because of what I was doing and the people I was associating with, but I couldn't stop myself. It was really, really rough. And a lot of people took terrible advantage of me and my ignorance and my youth, and a lot of bad things happened. But, I didn't have any experience. I was just like my mother, neither one of us knew anything about anything. We had been witnesses our whole lives. So, I didn't really understand the danger that I was in, that I was putting myself in. And I will go into all that in more detail later. I do want to make a video about drugs, addiction, and all that stuff when it comes to Jehovah's Witnesses. So, my mom had helped me get a job cleaning the apartments that she worked at after people moved out, so I'm going in, cleaning them with this company that does a housekeeping company, cleaning again. So anyway, I kind of quit doing school, but my mom didn't know it. I had decided I didn't want to graduate from high school. I didn't care about that. All I cared about was smoking weed. And so I moved out of her place and moved in with a friend of mine, with that friend, the one that was 19. Moved in with her, and my mom just kind of let me. And she trusted me. And she felt like I was really mature for my age, and like I could handle it. Hey guys, my camera crashed again on my last one, but it's fine. I'm just gonna go ahead and make this one part 5. So if this is part 5 of my waking up from my witness indoctrination story, as well as just the story of my experience with the witnesses in general. So if you're interested, go ahead and go back. There are 4 parts before this one, but this one is part 5, I think. I don't know. When I upload it, it'll have the right numbers, I promise. So yeah, just look at the numbers. Anyway, so I had moved in with my friend, and just a lot of really bad stuff happened over there. And I had dropped out of high school, and I was had some drug problems. I was smoking, and then 9/11 happened. And 9/11 happened around that time, and I thought it was Armageddon. I thought it was the end of the world, and I was like, oh my God, I gotta get back to the Kingdom Hall. I gotta get back to the religion, because I don't want to die at Armageddon. So I decided to move back in with my dad, which really upset my mom, because around that time she kind of found out what I'd been up to. And she was furious with me about it, and we fought like crazy, and she kind of tossed all my stuff out the front yard, and but she did fight my dad because she didn't want to pay him child support. So anyway, what a nightmare. I was about 17, and I did go back, but this time I went back to my dad, who was more than happy to be like, I told you so, to me and my mom, who had no idea that what I had been up to, and just was completely trusting in me, and I had just totally screwed over. So she was kind of happy to be rid of me, I think. But my dad was like, well, now you're back here, you got to go back to an elders meeting. So I went to another elders meeting and had to tell them everything I'd done again, sex, drugs, and techno. And this time they publicly reproved me, which is amazing. So I really thought I was going to be disfellowshipped. And it's a good thing I wasn't, because that would have been my mental state at that point was really, really bad. Really, really bad. So I was publicly reproved, and I just kind of came back into my dad's life with like a lot more experience. Like I had some drug issues. I really liked meth, which I know is amazing to hear. So I definitely got out of it. I got out of the drug life, but I was so in love with drugs and ecstasy and raves and smoking weed, and I was smoking cigarettes, just everything just that you can imagine. I wanted to do everything wrong. I couldn't wait. Anything that was different, I couldn't wait to try it, which just got me into some situations that were really traumatizing. So I had all these problems, but here I am, and I'm back, and I was about 17 at this point. My dad and my stepmom helped me to get my GED. Thank God. So I had no idea how stupid it was to just, screw off with high school when you just have a few years left. So I missed out on all that, but I did get my GED, and I got it early. So they were like, we got to help you get a job so you can have a life, right? Because I'm really, really lucky I grew up at that time when it was okay for witnesses to kind of go to some like vocational school. So they sent me to beauty school. So I was going to beauty school, and I was the youngest person there. I think I was the only person who was like 16 or 17. Everybody else was an adult. But of course I gravitated towards some people who also had drug problems, and we all enabled each other, so that's how I was getting my cigarettes. That's how I was, still getting meth, and I was still smoking meth. Amazing. Can't imagine. I'm so lucky to be alive. Um, so uh, so yeah, that's kind of what I did while I was in beauty school. Um, the thing that was kind of going on at home, my stepsister had left. She had fallen in love with some guy. Not just some guy. I mean, she still married him. This was in they got married in 2000. I was already gone. I was living with my mom, but so she fell in love with this guy. He was a witness too. He was like just a couple years older than her, and when she turned 18, she left high school and went and married him. And my parents, my dad, and my stepmom, did not like him. But anyway, that's a story for a different day. So she went off and married him, and she was gone. So it was just me and my stepbrother, and no, he was a teenage boy, just kind of aloof, just kind of like in his room and wanted to play his guitar and, that kind of stuff. So he wasn't into the same things that I was into. So I really did want to give this religion another chance. I really, really did. I had a really bad problem with drugs. At this point, it had become not something that I wanted to do just because it was like, ooh, something naughty. Now it was like, I need to do this. So it did feel pretty bad. On top of that, though, I mean, I was just starting to see, like, because I had a chance to kind of detach from my indoctrination, when you're put back into it, you kind of see how weird it is, right? Like, I was just kind of starting to be able to pinpoint, not in the doctrine so much, like, it didn't matter. I believed whatever they said. I wasn't much of a doctrine person. I was like, yes, okay, totally blind obedience. I was a complete sheeple. But, like, the way they acted with each other and, like, the way things went with my dad and his disfellowshipping and the organizational part of this was just inherently flawed. And I could see that. And I felt like, I don't know, just emotionally slimy and gross when I came out of the Kingdom Hall. And I couldn't really put my finger on it. But now looking back, I can tell you what that was my reaction to the fakeness and, just that the false brotherhood. And I don't know. Anyway, I'm sure that you guys understand what I'm saying. So my dad had been drinking a lot over the past few years, especially since I had moved out. And my dad is a raging alcoholic now. And it kind of started around then. So since I had to admit I didn't tell him everything, but I did tell him some stuff about what I had been up to. And he knew that I drank a lot. And so the nice thing for him was he had a drinking buddy. And so every night he would get a case of beer and he would drink it. And I would get hammered. And it got to the point where, like, if I was home alone, I would go down because he would buy, like, really super cheap beer and keep it in the garage and in large quantities. So I would just go down there and get a bunch of his beer and drink it all. I drank all the liquor in the house. I drank and drank and drank everything that we had in there. But, a lot of it was like at my dad's blessing. And I kind of felt like, if he's going to give me beers when he's here, I may as well have them when he's not here, just had really bad substance abuse issues. So my mom moved. She moved down to Portland, Oregon for work to another place. And so I would take the train. I would take the train down on the weekends to go see her. And, some time had passed and she wasn't mad at me anymore, So I would take the train down to go see her on the weekends. And when I turned 18, I had a relationship with another boy, and a worldly boy. And that was another one of those things where I was just head over heels in love, and he broke my heart, and just all this silly teenager crap. So I was just really, really down anyway, and I was just kind of, feeling super dramatic. And so I was coming back from seeing my mom on the train, and the cool thing about the train was that they wouldn't card you, at least they didn't at the time. So I got hammered. I just got completely wasted, and then my dad would pick me up. And he'd been drinking too. I knew he's been drinking. My dad would keep a case of beer under the seat of his work van, and then I don't know if he would drink while he was driving, but there were a couple of times I caught him sitting out there drinking while he was in a parking lot waiting for me, to come back from somewhere. And he's like, "Oh, you got back really fast," he would drink and drive. So I kind of felt like, I don't care if I've been drinking. Plus I was 18, so I can do what I want. So anyway, he had found out about something I had done with this boy. I don't even remember. I had slept with this boy, and I was just kind of I was so browbeaten at this point. After I was publicly reproved, I lost my privileges, so I wasn't allowed to count time anymore. But my dad would still force me to go out in service and sit in the van. And around that time, I started to get very thin, and I was getting really cute because I was 17. And my dad and my stepmom had bought me they bought me a whole new wardrobe because I was in beauty school, and I wanted to look very fashion forward for, and so I was really into fashion and hair and all that stuff. So they bought me all these really pretty new clothes that I looked very, very nice in, but I looked like a woman. And I was grabbed by the elbow and dragged out of the Kingdom Hall so many times and yelled at about whatever I was wearing. That was fine when I left the house and when I got there, but 30 minutes into the meeting, now it's not fine. My dad, I remember once I had a talk. This is different. This is a while ago. I think I was about 12 when this particular thing happened, but I think it's relevant. I would like to say, when I was about 12, I had a talk, and I had the cutest little dress. It was a little burgundy dress, and the neckline came way, way up here, and I think it ended at my knee, and it was a little A-line dress, and I loved it. So I wore that with a little black cardigan over it, and when we left the house, he was like, "All right, everyone, let's get in the car." He's looking at me. I look fine. I get to the Kingdom Hall. I get out of the van, walk inside, and my dad immediately grabs me by the arm and yanks me outside and yells at me about my dress, about it being too short, and how dare you think you can get on the stage looking like that. And I just burst into hysterical tears, and he took me home because I had to change. So we had to drive 30 minutes back. Right, and 30 minutes home, and then 30 minutes back to the Kingdom Hall. So the whole round trip took over an hour. When I was I looked fine. Plus, I was 12. Okay, I was a little girl. So this whole sexualizing me and my knees when I was 12 was really, really horrible for my how I felt about myself. Anyway, by the time we got back to the Kingdom Hall, my eyes were so red and puffy from crying, from being screamed at, that I couldn't get on the stage. And my stepsister had to step in and give my talk for me. So it didn't matter anyway. But anyway, they bought me all these clothes, and they wouldn't buy me anything unless they saw it on me. So I would go in the plane, put it on, come out. "Oh, you look great. Yeah, let's get that. Let's get that." So I had all these brand new clothes, and I would wear them to the Kingdom Hall, and I think the elders would pull my dad aside and say, "Your daughter," blah, 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 and then he would pull me aside and yell at me. When he was number one that saw me in them, he bought them for me. He saw me before we got left for the meeting, and now I'm in trouble for dressing like a slut or whatever I am today, So yeah, it was really, really rough, and I was so tired of everything, having to deal with the elders. And after this boy broke up with me, that I was, this new one that I was all in love with, I did try to kill myself. I made a serious suicide attempt, and it was only after my dad kind of found out that I had had sex with him and stuff. He came in the room screaming, freaking out, and I tried to overdose myself, and I did end up going to the hospital and going into an inpatient mental thing for about a week, because I was terribly suicidal. Around this time as well, I had also developed a pretty bad eating disorder. Everything was just really falling apart for me. So I was, suicidal, meth head, with an eating disorder, and it was Jehovah's Witness. Like, it was just not things were stacking up. Needless to say, I'm doing much better now. But anyway, I had made this serious suicide attempt. And when I got back, I was in a very fragile place. I worked really hard while I was in that hospital, worked with therapists who were really trying to help me. I should have probably been there for a few months, but I was only there for a week. I did a lot of work in that week. And when I came back, my dad and my stepmom had emptied my room, and they had gone through and looked at every single thing in my room and thrown away everything. So everything I owned were in giant black trash bags outside. All of my stuff anything they decided I didn't need anymore was in were in those trash bags. They had moved all the furniture around, and I didn't know where anything was. And that's what I came home to when I was in that very fragile place. And it wasn't the first time I tried to kill myself. There were two more serious attempts. There were lots of little tiny, maybe I just wanted attention. But there were two more serious attempts where I was absolutely gung-ho. I had to have my stomach pumped once. But I did end up back in that hospital. I was there twice. I did 2 stints in there. Anyway, I just kind of felt like Jehovah hated me. I hated myself for what I had been doing. I knew, especially after I was going back to the meetings with my dad, I knew I couldn't do it. I couldn't be these people. These girls that I had kind of grown up with that didn't get out, and they didn't see the things I saw, and their mom and dads were still together, and they lived in a bubble, a very isolated bubble. I didn't understand them, and they didn't understand me. And I kind of loathed them because they had their family together, and they weren't going through the abuse that I was going through at home, or that I know of. I don't actually know. But these girls were, giving experiences at, the assembly or whatever about how a boy asked them out, and they said no, and yeah, he was cute, but I said no, and everyone's, oh, ha, 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 ha. Right? And I just was like, oh, I just couldn't stand it. I knew I couldn't do it. I knew I couldn't, but I knew that Jehovah's Witnesses were the only right religion. And I knew that if I couldn't do it, then I was as good as dead. So I may as well just be dead. The drugs did not help my mental state. So anyway, I have digressed a lot here. But in the story, we are at the point where I'm coming back from seeing my mom, and I was hammered, and my dad was also hammered. And he told me when I got in the van, I'm in trouble already. You're going to see the elders. You're going to talk to them about, having sex with this boy. Because this was, I'm finally able to, he thinks that it's okay now that I'm better. It's time for me to go confess. And I knew this time they were going to disfellowship me for sure. I was like, I'm not going to let them disfellowship me because I'm not going to go. And I said, well, I'm 18, so I don't have to. Like, if you think my dad was mad when I told him I didn't want to call him daddy anymore, the day I was like, nope, I don't have to. I'm a legal adult. Ooh, God, it was terrible. So anyway, that night, I left. I left that night. He called the cops on me. It was a big night. It was probably one of the worst nights of my entire life. But anyway, didn't involve the police. And I did get taken to another psych hospital, and they released me the very next day because there was nothing wrong with me. I was just mad. So the next day I went back there to my dad's and I got my stuff and I left and I never went back. So I was still kind of like right in the middle of trying to finish beauty school. So I lived with my mom's boyfriend who was gone a lot. And he lived like a block away from my school, so it was perfect because I didn't have a car, driver's license, so I could just walk, right? So it was wonderful. I was alone all the time, and you know what I did at night? Like I wasn't really doing drugs anymore. I was smoking, but I wasn't really doing drugs. I was reading the Bible every night. Every night I would sit and read my Bible because I was like determined to be a good witness. So one of the elders decided that he needed to talk to me. So he got my number somehow, and he called my mom's boyfriend, and I didn't answer. So he left a message on the voicemail that, we need to speak to you, and, please call us, and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, right. So, but I was determined to just kind of be a witness, on my own. So, I was reading my Bible all the time, and I was trying so hard, and I wasn't doing drugs. And, anyway, I had met this guy who was, a friend of a friend, all kind of in the apartment industry, because of my friend that my mom had introduced me to being in the apartment industry. Like all of my friends now were worked in the apartment industry in some way. So I was trying to be a good Christian, but I was also still a disrespectful little brat. So I was not following all the rules at my mom's boyfriend's, and I was drinking. And he found out, and he told me I had to leave. And I don't blame him at all. He told me no drinking, and I just went ahead and drank anyway, and I deserved it. So he told me to leave. So I got kicked out of my dad's. My mom lived in Portland, which was, I was in the Seattle area, which is hours away. And I was only like 2 months from finishing beauty school, and I had to finish. It was paid for. I had to get my license. So I had like a bag, and I went to this guy's house, to his apartment, and I knocked on the door. I had met him once. I met him one time. And I knocked on the door and I said, can I stay the night here? And he said, okay. And I said, can you please take me to school in the morning? And he said, okay. So I just stayed there. And I think I picked him because he was kind of he was a nice man. He was so nice. And I just could kind of tell that he was a really sweet person, like all the way deep down. He was a good person. And he was kind of dorky and kind of nerdy. And, I was cute, and I knew that I could, get him to, that sounds awful. I felt like I could manipulate him. Little did I know that he was way, way smarter than me. But anyway, this man I did eventually marry. So he is now my ex-husband. We are still friends. But anyway, I could just tell that he wouldn't hurt me. And he never did. He was not on drugs. He didn't smoke. And he was safe. I felt safe with him. And I was safe with him. So he let me move in. And he took me to school every day. He picked me up every night, and he helped me finish beauty school. He also helped me get off drugs because we did eventually start a relationship, and I got back into drugs. And one day he told me that there was a guy out front that was waiting for me because he had drugs, and I was going to go out there and sit in his car with him all night and smoke meth. And this guy, my husband, soon to be husband, told me, if you go out there, you're never coming back. Don't ever come back. And if you don't, then you have to quit right now. It's me and finishing beauty school, or him out there and drugs. What do you want? And I made the best decision I had ever made. The only really good decision I had made my entire life up until that point. I didn't go outside, and he helped me get clean. And I did. I didn't get sober, but I did get clean. And he saved my life. So anyway, I was about, I was still 18. So I finished beauty school. He helped me. He helped me get clean. And this relationship was really nice. He was a lot older than me. I was 18, he was 30. So, there's a little bit of an age difference there. But anyway, so my dad found out that I was living here with this guy and that he was also my boyfriend. So I am living with my boyfriend. And, the elders kind of left me alone. They didn't follow me. They didn't stalk me or anything. It's weird how, like, some people they do, and then some people they just don't. I know that my mom at one point, one time I wanted to talk to the elders, and so she took me to the Kingdom Hall so I could have an elders meeting, and I was crying, and she came barging in, like, what are you doing to my kid? So I know that they were afraid of her because she was kind of threatening to be litigious with them, and they were afraid that she was going to sue, and she had a lot of good reason to be mad at them going back to the rape thing. So they were a little afraid of her because she would win. So I think they just kind of left me alone because they were afraid of her. But yeah, my dad started coming over to the apartment with a Bible and all these books, and started studying with my boyfriend. And my boyfriend was an atheist who also was probably, I don't know, 100 more IQ points than my dad. He's one of the smartest people I've ever met, honestly. He's one of the kindest and one of the smartest. He's a brilliant person, and there was no way he was going to fall for this shit. He knew exactly what it was, and there was just no way. But I was so excited. I'm like, oh my God, you're going to be such a good witness because you're so smart. You would make the best witness. Oh my God. So none of that worked, needless to say. And my boyfriend was so sweet for putting up with this. He didn't need to put up with this. Anyway. Well, this went on for a while, not too long, a couple of months, until my dad told me that I was living in sin, and if I didn't get married, he was going to quit speaking to me. So we got married. We got married. And I was way too young. I was 19, and he was a grown man. And our marriage did not last. I was terribly indoctrinated into a cult, and my husband was just way too smart for that. I think our number one fight that we had was this. In a relationship where there's just like that one thing that you fight about all the time, that is like at the core of your issues as a couple. This was at the core. He tried to be patient with me, but I would become irate if he presented me with any evidence that I couldn't I couldn't square, or like for example, he brought home a book one day, and it was about cults, and it was about like cults in the United States that are like, each chapter was about like a different high control group. And there was a chapter in there about the Jehovah's Witnesses, and he asked me to read it. And I read like the first paragraph, and I was so mad, and I put it down, and I said, will you please take this out of the house because it has demons? Yeah. So he took it out of the house. So yeah, I mean, our marriage was fraught and doomed from the start, fraught with troubles. And again, we are friends now, but my dad continued to talk to me. Around this, when him and me got married, I went to the Kingdom Hall in our area, the local Kingdom Hall, and I walked in and asked if during a meeting, and I asked the guy at the literature desk if there was a sister that I could study with. And so he went, and he was like, oh, okay. I went and got this lady, this older Black lady, who really, God, what was her name? I don't remember, but she was a pioneer in the area, and we exchanged information. And so she called me, and she came over, and I think she's probably one of the nicest people I ever met in my entire life. I adored her. She was older, and she'd never been married. She didn't have any kids, and it just makes me really, really sad that she would have been such a good mom. But she kind of became a mom to me. And so she started coming over all the time and studying with me, and she was really, really nice to my husband. And, he didn't hold the fact that she was in a cult against her. Him and me both, we were just both crazy in love with this woman. So anyway, one day I asked her, in our next study, can we talk about 1914? Because I really want to be able to prove all this stuff to myself, so that was like where I was. I wanted to prove everything about the religion to myself, and I wanted to start with 1914. And she was like, yeah, absolutely. So I'm so excited, right? So she comes over to our apartment one day, and she's, are you ready? I'm like, yes. And she's like, okay, turn to the scripture. So turn to the scripture, and we read it. I'm like, okay. She says, okay, now turn to the scripture. Okay, we read that one. Okay. She just took me on this whole journey of scriptures, right? It was like all these scriptures that didn't make any sense together. There was nothing that linked them together. And I was really thinking that she was going to tell me why. Okay, why are we going to go from the New Testament back to the Old Testament, back to the New Testament? Why are we doing that? Where in the Bible does it say to do that? And even in context of reading around these scriptures, there was no, it just didn't make any sense to do what we were doing. And I could see that. So we went through all of these scriptures, and then she looked at me and said, isn't that amazing? And that's when I realized that was it. All of that we had just done, that was the proof. And it didn't make any sense whatsoever. And it wasn't just that I didn't understand it. It really didn't make sense. There was no reason to link all those scriptures together. There just wasn't. There was no precedent to do that. And I decided to just kind of shelve that, as ex-Mormons like to say. I'm on their Reddit, so I pick up a lot of their stuff. So that was a very difficult day for me, because I kept going back over those scriptures and reading around them and trying to figure out why link all these scriptures together? Why do all this math? The Bible doesn't say that. It doesn't say anything about that, right? So yeah, that was a very difficult thing for me, but I didn't let it deter me. It was still the truth. So, okay. You know what? It's going to be about 33 minutes. I'm going to pause this and pick up in a little bit. Because again, I don't want to, steal too much of your time. So, it's kind of moving into my actual wake up process. And that is next in my story. So bear with me, but thank you so much for watching the whole thing if you have, and I will see you in part,